Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Gio. Today's story is called Silver Wolf. It's the next installment in the werewolf series. As always, any noises you hear in the background is my little dog. She snores. When the silver wolf takes control, it's like I'm watching myself through a camera. It looks like me, but it don't act like me. The silver wolf is always angry, and it's very angry now. We were in the bedroom of the large house at the compound, the one Steph claimed for her crystal healing and work. It started as a simple conversation. They had asked me to talk about the night I was bitten, and the following night when I first transformed. I don't remember much of that night, but I do remember the anger, the fear, the way the beast tore into me, biting and clawing, and would have killed me if the cops hadn't arrived when they did. I didn't know whether I'm angry or terrified anymore. I suspect I'm both. The one thing I do know, the silver wolf has escaped from my soul and manifested. The wolf is free. It has forced me to transform, even though the full moon is over. I'm Cory, a werewolf, though we prefer the term moon-cursed. The wolf inside me got angrier. It wanted revenge for what had been done to us. Sometimes I think the wolf is the subconscious me. Other times it seems like I have two souls in one body. Steph, the woman who had protected me for the last 6 months, just told me who had attacked me and nearly killed me. The name of the man who bit me. Her estranged son, Wesley. That one name gave my fear and anger and hatred and terror a focus. The silver moon blazed bright in my brain. The son of the people I had learned to trust over the last few months had ripped my life apart as much as he had ripped my body to shreds. The silver wolf howled in my soul, not a howl of greeting or challenge or warning. It was a howl of vengeance. I had transformed into the giant silver wolf, angrier than I had ever been. Wesley had attacked me 6 months ago. He had destroyed my life. For once, me and the silver wolf agreed on one thing. We hated the man who had done this to us. It wouldn't take much to lose the little control I had over the silver wolf and rip all these people into lumps of meat. None of them could fight the silver wolf. None of them could fight the rage inside me. Not my mate and best friend, Lucas. Not the other werewolf in the room, crazy, mixed up, insane, and rude Gavin. Not gentle Steph, the mate of the leader of our tribe, and took the place of my mother. Not Anna, the mate of the wolf Salvador, the woman whose endless patience and odd chance helped all of us. Lucas ran from the room. His sweat held the tinge of fear. Everyone else should run too, because I can't hold the wolf for long. Steph met my gaze and didn't back away. Her black eyes held the reflection of my silver ones. You know the rules. Except if you are injured or it's the full moon, you do not transform in my house. I couldn't help myself. I growled, long, low, filled with malice. Her son did this to me. I wanted to scream, but I was also the wolf. The scream came out as a howl. The silver wolf was big, strong, and mean. I paced sideways a couple of steps, my eyes never leaving Steph's. She stepped in front of me, unblinking, and said, "Face me." A challenge for domination. My will versus hers. What is she thinking? I could rip her fragile body to pieces. My mind shouted run, but it came out as a low growl. Behind her, Anna took the Tibetan singing bowl and made it sing. She chanted something, Latin, I think. The victim of this weekend's werewolf attack, Mark, lay handcuffed in the bed, staring at me, whimpering. The moon was strong in my mind. We haven't found the wolf who attacked and bit Mark. If I didn't stop, I would do to my new family what had been done to me and to him. Somebody stop me. Click. Gavin loaded the trank gun. Bang. Gavin fired the trank gun. The dart never penetrated my fur. But if I looked his way, I would have surrendered to Steph, in essence stating that Steph held dominance over the Silver Wolf. The Silver Wolf would not do that. The moon shone brighter inside me. I let my lips curl back in a smile. I would win. I would prove that I was the stronger. No, that was the Silver Wolf taking control. The hated silver of the moon would not win today. My wolf would surrender to me. The Silver Wolf defied me. It refused to surrender. Steph remained in front of me, eyes locked with mine. "This is my house," she said. "You will lower your head now." If she flinched even a little, my wolf would attack and rip her throat out. If I flinched, I lost to Steph, but she and the others would live. That would be one victory for me against the wolf. How do I gain control of my wolf? I had to, before I killed my friends and my new family. Mark curled up in a fetal position. Gavin reloaded the trank gun. Anna chanted. Steph didn't move. Her eyes bored into mine like lasers. Her will was just as strong as the Silver Wolf's. A smell invaded the air. A musky smell. The smell of Lucas, the night I first met him, before we dated, before we fell in love, before we were mated. He had been sitting with friends at the plaza, and I had spoken to him. It was the same scent, the scent he had worn on each one of our dates, and sometimes still wore on special nights. The smell I had hunted the first night I had changed into the Silver Wolf. Wolves don't remember the nights when the full moon steals the human part away. But a part of me remembered the smell. His cologne, mixed with his scent. The cologne of the man I loved. It distracted the Silver Wolf for a second, long enough for me to break eye contact with Steph and force my head to lower in submission. For a second, I was in control. Not the Silver Wolf, not the moon, but me. Long enough for me to look at the door, long enough for my friends to live. Lucas stood at the door, his cologne in his hand. He had sprayed it on his wrist and held his hand out to me. "Cory, do you remember?" The man I loved had been awake for a day and a half, maybe more, trying to help me stay in control. "Cory, let's leave these people to their work," Lucas said, his hand outstretched, his eyes pleading. I'm glad I was in wolf form so no one would see how relieved I was. It only took a couple of steps for the giant wolf to cross the room and sniff Lucas's wrist. Lucas reached up and scratched my jaw. Why couldn't I control the anger? Why did I want to destroy everything? Why did these people put up with me? Why did Lucas even love me? I licked Lucas's face. The moon faded inside me. The hatred and anger were replaced by a growing desire. I could never hope to be in Lucas's league. He was so patient, so smart, so beautiful, so filled with the light. Not like me. I was darkness and fury. Yet Lucas loved me anyway. "You have helped us teach Mark a great deal," Anna said. "Cory, it's time to take care of your mate while we finish here. Gavin, go join Salvador and Paola." A simple instruction. I could follow that. Her words gave me something to hold on to. I padded out of the room, brushing past Gavin and into Lucas's arms. "But I wanted to shoot him again," Gavin said. "Why can't Cory come outside?" "He will," Steph said, "once he's had time to calm down. Lucas, why don't you take Cory by the fire? It's calming there, and you can be alone for a few minutes." Lucas's smell, the cologne, was calming. He led me down the hall and into the big room. Somewhere along the walk, I transformed back to me. Lucas kept an arm about me, because the transformation back to human always left me weak. Crap. Every time I transformed into the silver wolf, I destroyed my clothes. "You like being naked," Lucas whispered. His arm caught me as I stumbled. The big room had a fire blazing in the fireplace, with a large bearskin rug in front of it. I led Lucas there. We laid down on it. I kissed him as the moon retreated inside me, as the silver wolf went to sleep in my soul. "Thank you," I said, staring into his eyes, and kissed him. Our kiss became more personal, more intimate. I held him tight, suddenly afraid of what I had become. I shivered. "It's okay," Lucas whispered. "You won." "I love you," I whispered back. Our kiss was gentle at first, but the warmth of the fire, the softness of the bearskin, the scent of his cologne made the kiss a lot more primal. 2 hours later, I woke with Lucas in my arms. He had finally surrendered to sleep, and I was at peace. The anger of the silver wolf no longer troubled me, but I knew that wouldn't last. The fire still burned, but not as high. I stretched and touched one of Steph's crystal clusters. When had she put that there? A couple polished obsidian stones surrounded us. A blanket covered us. The bearskin was warm. Lucas was safe. Everybody was safe. The sun had set, marking the clouds in shades of scarlet and burgundy. The beautiful sunset light played across our bodies. I knew peace. The silver wolf had retreated and slept. But we weren't alone. Edmund sat in an easy chair drinking coffee and thumbing through his phone. "Steph, Cory's awake." "Been here long?" I asked, and stretched again. "I've been chopping wood until I heard a change in your heartbeat," Edmund said. A moment later, Steph came into the big room, carrying a tray with sandwiches and iced tea. Lucas didn't even stir. I sat up, keeping the blanket covering me and Lucas. "I'm sorry, Steph, about earlier. Is Mark and Anna okay?" "You didn't hurt anybody, but you did put the fear of the wolf in Mark," she said. "He's a believer now. Gavin should know better than to use a trank gun. It only pissed you off. And Anna's been around wolves a long time. Your eyes aren't silver anymore. How do you feel?" "Because of you and Lucas. I was in control," I said. "That's got to be a first," Edmund said. "Controlling a wolf with cologne. No one would believe us." "I laid odds the silver wolf wouldn't hurt us," Steph said. "But you did have me worried for a moment." "Me too," I said. "Good. It's when you stop being worried that someone gets hurt," Edmund said. "We need to settle this quickly, and we don't have much time. We found the other wolves." "Wolves? There's more than one?" "Jack thinks there's 3, Edmund said. "We'll need the silver wolf for this. Before we go, eat, and let's clear the air. I didn't think you were ready to learn this, but what's done is done. You know who bit you, but now you're going to learn why." "Your son escaped, and I got in the way," I said. "It's more complicated than that," Steph said, "and a lot sadder. We made a mistake, and it almost killed you. Sometimes we think Fenrir is punishing us because of what happened," Edmund said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Wesley is a few years older than you," Steph said. "He might have inherited the wolf from Edmund, but he also inherited one big streak of bullheadedness. He wouldn't listen to anyone," Edmund said. "We had fight after fight, He didn't want to stay hidden away, but wanted to live his life on his terms. "You have to understand," Steph said. "He's a good kid, but he made some bad choices." Lucas pulled the blanket up on him further and gave a soft snore. I tucked the blanket around him. Steph gave me a throw blanket from the couch to cover myself. 2 or 3 days before the strawberry moon back in June, Edmund said, "We had our last argument." "That's right before he bit me," I said. I found Lucas's hand and held it. "Jack and him had been best friends for years," Steph said. "Not lovers like you and Lucas. Just really good friends." "Jack is straight, and he has Miranda," I said. "Jack is the only one of us that doesn't go crazy on the full moon," Edmund said. "He can be human even during the full moon, but he likes being a wolf and sleeping next to Miranda." "How can he do that?" I said. Lucas squeezed my hand. He had woken and had heard everything. "The moon is very strong in you," Edmund said, "but not in Jack. We think that's why he's a smaller wolf." "Wesley thought he could learn how to control the moon," Steph said, "and he thought he had. He had stayed human for several full moons." "But not the strawberry moon?" Lucas said, sitting up beside me and leaning on my shoulder. "What made that one different?" Edmund sighed and moved from the chair he was in to sit next to Steph. He set the tray of sandwiches next to me and Lucas. I was starving. So was Lucas. Those sandwiches were good. Wesley didn't want to hide anymore, but I knew that was the only way we'd survive. He challenged me for the right to lead the Moonfangs, Edmund said. "They fought on the lawn out back, the one where you almost killed Gavin," Steph said. "Good times," Lucas whispered and kissed my shoulder. "I won, but I refused to kill him or drive him off," Edmund said. Instead of submitting, Wesley grabbed his things and left. "We stayed by the phone hoping he'd call," Steph said. Then Salvador heard from one of his friends about the wild dog attack downtown. We hoped it wasn't Wesley. The next night, Jack tracked a giant silver wolf roaming the city, Edmund said. The wolf was on a rampage looking for something. Didn't hurt anybody, but sure scared a lot of people. "Jack backtracked your scent back to the hospital, and later the police brought you back there," Steph said. "That's when we learned your name." The silver wolf remained calm. I didn't get angry. Not enough to disturb him anyway. "How do you know it was Wesley?" Lucas said. "You know how sensitive Jack is," Edmund said. "How good a tracker he is. He smelled Wesley on what remained of your clothes, and on you. Later, when we saw the bite marks, we knew it was him. Before you turned into the silver wolf, Edmund and Wesley were the two biggest wolves we knew. It was him," Steph said. "I blame myself that this happened to you," Edmund said. "I'm sorry. There must have been something else I could have done, but I don't know what." "Lock the brat in a cage until he became nice," Gavin said from across the room. "Gavin, this is private," Steph said. "That's what makes it more fun," Gavin said. "Jack's out in the SUV. We going, or are lover boys having a picnic?" "Give us 5, Edmund said. "You let me stay here because of guilt?" I said. That stirred Silver. "Don't get angry. Because of Wesley's actions," Steph said, "you became part of the tribe the moment he bit you. That makes you family. Unlike the others, you are also having trouble coming to terms with your wolf. We can help you with that." "Someday," Edmund said, "my son will have to face the consequences of his actions." "Blah, blah, blah," Gavin said. "You can be all sob story later, after we've dealt with the other wolves." "We'll talk about this later," Edmund said. "Just know, you and Lucas belong in our tribe. Now get your boyfriend up to bed. You get dressed and meet us out front. Gavin's right, we need to hurry. Bring some spare clothes this time, just in case. Remember what happened on our last outing?" "I'll get dressed and come with you," Lucas said. "Not this time," Steph said. "You've been up longer than we have, and we're exhausted. Cory's tucking you into bed, and you're staying there for at least 8 hours. "Don't make me get the handcuffs," I said. leaning in to kiss my boyfriend. "I won't argue," Lucas said, "as long as you promise to make me breakfast." Lucas was asleep before his head hit the pillow. I was dressed and with the others in 2 minutes. Steph stopped me before I joined the others. She handed me 2 pieces of polished obsidian and a bracelet of an odd stone that almost looked like polished metal. "Obsidian is strong against any negativity, but I made you something special," Steph said. "It's a Buddhist 108-bead mala made from hematite I polished myself, and thanks to Anna, it's blessed by the goddess. I am hoping it will block incoming negativity, a shield of sorts, and keep the moon from driving you crazy. I prefer natural materials, but this time I used a man-made elastic cord. Wrap it around your wrist, and when you shift, it should stay on you." "Thank you, Steph," I said. "I'm sorry about earlier." "We all have our rough moments," she said. "You don't know how much I worry about you and Lucas. I've made one for him you can give him when he wakes up. Be safe." Jack drove. Edmund rode shotgun. I sat in the back, sandwiched between Gavin and Paola. Salvador stayed behind to guard our mates. "Who's the top?" Gavin asked. "Gavin," Jack said. "Shut up, Gavin, or I'll let the Silver Wolf out to play," I said back. If something ever happened to Lucas, I couldn't stop the Silver Wolf from rampaging. I doubt anybody else could either. I figured everybody already knew about Wesley, so I could ask a couple of questions. "Edmund, does Wesley know he attacked me or bit me?" Jack glanced at Edmund and blew out a breath. Edmund turned so he could look at me. "I don't know." "It was a full moon," Paola said. "Wolves don't remember anything on full moon nights. Or if they do, it's very little." "Maybe he learned somehow," Jack said quietly, "and that's why he doesn't come back. Why don't you call him, Edmund? I've tried, but he doesn't answer." "He is your son," Gavin said, a little bit of bitterness staining his voice. "Do you think I've stopped trying? He doesn't want to hear from me," Edmund said. "He's just like me. Too much pride." "He was so proud that he gained control on the full moon," Jack said. "To find out he'd lost it completely and attacked someone? That would destroy any of us. I imagine it would do the same to him." "He's still part of our tribe. We're still family," Paola said. "Who else can he turn to?" "No one. He's just like the rest of us," Gavin said, and stared out the window. I now knew the truth about the night of the attack. Though I understood, I was still angry. But I pitied him. Attacking somebody during the full moon was my worst fear. As we drove away from the compound, I think everybody was thinking about Wesley. I pitied him. I was afraid of him. I was furious at him. With that bad combination of emotions, the Silver Wolf would burst out of my soul and attack him the moment I saw him. We drove in silence for the rest of the trip. There's a section of the city that used to be Warehouse Central 40 years ago. It's now a crumbling area of old warehouses, some of which are still in use. Several are close to the train tracks. It's a haven for drugs and crime. I seldom came here before I had been turned into a wolf. I had no reason to now. A lot of the buildings are abandoned. The city council had talked about turning this section of the city into apartments and high-rise condos with shopping malls and parks. It was nothing now but decaying dreams and rotting buildings. A perfect place for someone to hide out, especially renegade wolves. The sun had finished setting an hour ago. "Jack tracked the one from the park here," Edmund said. "The new guy, Mark, still had the scent of the wolf that attacked him," Jack said. "That same wolf killed a person in the park. That's why the crime scene guys were there. He also put 3 other people into the hospital. None were bitten. So we have 3 wolves, 1 dead victim, 1 bitten victim, and 3 clawed-up victims," Paola said. "Steph thinks Mark will be okay," Edmund said, "once the moon is sucked out of him and he gets time to adjust." "Just like you, Cory," Gavin said, "except you never adjusted." How do you want to play this? Paola asked. 5-3, we have the advantage. I want them out of our territory tonight, Edmund said. They've caused too much chaos, and that could bring the hunters. We can't kill them, because animal attacks sometimes make the news. Jack, you take point. Paola, go high. Gavin, watch our rear. Cory, you're with me. You want to keep track of the crazy, Gavin said. Don't make me regret bringing you, Edmund said. You've got your orders. Go. Paola ran to the wall, grabbing handholds that only she could feel, and climbed to the roof. Gavin held the trank gun and held up position 30 feet behind us. He carried a revolver too, and melted into the shadows. To any observer, Edmund and I were alone. Once the 3 nights of the full moon ended, my senses quickly diminished, almost to human levels. My strength almost did as well. Unless I let the silver wolf out. Cory, smell that? Edmund said. A faint animal smell floated on the January breeze. If I shifted to the silver wolf, I would be able to follow it, but I might not be able to control the wolf either. I glanced in a window to make sure my eyes were normal. No silver. That means the scent was strong enough that humans could smell it. The silver wolf stirred inside me. The scent had awakened the beast. It wasn't angry yet, only curious. Edmund and I walked down the dark road. Jack left his clothes at the SUV and shifted to Wolf. The guy was so stealthy I couldn't see him. Edmund pointed at a building. I don't know what he saw or smelled. Fenrir hadn't gifted me with those abilities. Fenrir, the old Norse god-wolf, son of Loki the trickster, the bound god-wolf who endowed mortals with wolf spirits and who will someday destroy the gods. The only part about him I believed was that his gifts were as much curses as blessings. The rage of the silver wolf ruined my life. I lost my home, my friends, my school, my job. I couldn't go out among people because silver could take over at any moment. What did I get in return? Blind, unreasoning fury. I couldn't transform without being afraid I'd kill someone. The only good thing in my life was Lucas. I twisted the mala on my wrist and adjusted the silver-black beads a little. Steph had made a thing of beauty. The smell of Lucas's cologne had stayed on my skin. I'm glad I found him. Jack led us to a building set back from the others. It had no hum of electricity, and the railways next to it smelled of rust. I touched them. They didn't vibrate. A window flickered with a little bit of light. Firelight? Candlelight? I sniffed. Cheap wine. Sweat. Wolf dander. Unwashed clothes. A coppery scent. Blood. The silver wolf had just raised its head and was coming out. I clenched my fist. Damn you, Fenrir. I would not lose control this time. The door to the old warehouse was locked. A soft pad came from above. Paola was on the roof, looking around. I closed my eyes to still my breath and to focus my hearing. Gruff voices. Several voices. All male. No, one female. Talking about basketball? I ignored Edmund and the others and walked to the right of the building. Though it wasn't a full moon, it was bright enough. One advantage to a wolf. We see equally well at night or in day, in wolf form or in human form, in light or in shadow. Oh no. Was the silver wolf manifesting? Cory, what is it? Edmund whispered. I leaned close to the wall, listening. Something felt right about this direction. The moon seemed stronger. I made an entire circuit of the building, mostly blank walls with graffiti and locked doors with small windows. A loading dock sat unused by the train tracks. The loading dock door was warped. It would never rise again. An old dumpster stood next to the loading dock. Jack stood at a cracked section of wall, sniffing. An old drain pipe ran up and down. I looked up. It would be easy to climb here, Edmund said. Paola, I think Jack's trying to tell us they climbed to the roof. Any traces up there? A couple of minutes later, she peered over the edge. There's a service hatch up here. I think that's how they got in. If we tried to open it, they'd hear us immediately. A perfect stronghold that no one would enter without making a lot of noise. The silver wolf became aware. We were hunting. Its favorite sport. Cory, your eyes, Edmund said. I know, I said. My senses sharpened. My strength returned. The silver wolf was enjoying this. The werewolves inside the warehouse wouldn't leave themselves trapped with no way out. I'm willing to bet they are too smart for that. The doors are locked, the windows barred, only a roof hatch above. Time to go low. I walked around the old warehouse a second time. Nothing. Wait. The dumpster. It would take several humans to move it, but only one wolf. The garbage scent would mask most other scents. It was flush against the wall, as if somebody had pushed it. I knelt next to it. A wolf's eyes are sensitive. A little bit of light reflected in the space between the dumpster and the wall. I pushed. The silver wolf gave me his strength. As I pushed it, the dumpster grumbled with the sound of metal grating against concrete. The wolves inside must have taken advantage of a weak spot and widened a hole. Their escape route. Our way in. The night air was cold, and the other members of my tribe gathered around me to see the hole. Jack darted in. Of course, he's the smallest of us. Then Paola, now a wolf, the quickest. Gavin crawled next, still human. Get in control, Edmund whispered, tapping a spot on the side of my head, next to my eyes. I understood his message. My eyes were still silver. Edmund gestured for me to go next. I crawled after Gavin. Edmund crawled after me. The inside of the warehouse smelled like meat long rotted. Excrement fouled the air, and damp rot. Gavin sneezed. I don't know how Jack endured it. This room, this warehouse, felt unclean, unholy, foul. What had those wolves done? Gavin's eyes turned silver. He sheathed the trank gun on his back and pulled out his pistol. The crazy guy's hand shook. He pointed. I looked where he pointed. The silver wolf snarled inside me. One man feebly moved. 2 other people lay on the ground, dead. The wolves had attacked more than we had thought. A radio sat beside a middle-aged man sitting in a chair. Some radio personalities were talking about the upcoming basketball season, the source of the voices I had heard. Just like Mark, this man had an obscene amount of teeth in his mouth. His lips had a dozen or more tooth marks, and many dribbled blood. Unlike Mark, he had something wrong with his face. One eye was bigger than the other, but both were silver, and his skin looked pale and dead. He sniffed the air and changed into a speckled gray wolf with black leprous patches on its hide. A moon-crazed wolf when there was no full moon. He had surrendered to the wolf. Willingly. 2 other men walked up to the other. One gave a small smirk. The other took a step back. Before he lost his vocal cords, the first man looked up at us and said, "This will be fun." Thank you, everybody, for joining me for this story. We'll do the next installment as soon as I write it. Thank you for listening, and peace.